Good morning. Today we're on the second part of the section called Passing the Pylons concerning initiation in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. This morning we start with under the heading Initiation. In the beginning was initiation. The flesh profiteth nothing. The mind profiteth nothing. That which is unknown to you and above these, while firmly based in their equilibrium, giveth life. That's from Aleister Crowley's Liber 61. Initiate, as a noun, means beginner. As a verb, it means to begin, to bring into practice or use, also to instruct. As an adjective, it means started. Initiation is a commencement, not a reward for achievement, not a seal of attainment, not a trophy of adeptship. Initiation is a beginning. And when we evoke a beginning, we also by necessity conjure an ending. Death is the inevitable penalty we pay for allowing ourselves to be born. And the honor of life's journey between these two great pylons is the only compensation offered for this fate. The uninitiated invoke neither birth nor life nor death. Like sleepwalkers, their numbed steps bear them comatose from cradle to grave. Their pale shadow lives pantomime, but never experience the adventures of the initiate's journey. Like other mammals, they are born and live and die. But unless they make a conscious effort to wake up, unless they harness and focus the power of their wills to take the first step of spiritual renewal, they will not, as Homer sang, receive their share of the right. They will not have the same lot as the initiate, once they are dead and dwell in the mold where the sun goes down. That's from Homer's hymn to Demeter. Prostitution may be the oldest profession in the world, but the oldest spiritual institution is most certainly the initiatory society. To those who would argue that religion holds this august position, I must respectfully disagree. Religion merely haunts the outer courts of the great initiatory temple and holds mystery at arm's length. From the occasional thread of truth carried by the wind from the initiatory chamber, religion psychotically weaves and reweaves doctrines and dogma, tapestries of hope, hate, and perpetual distraction. Religion exalts mystery as an unknowable secret that must be sealed in glass like the corpse of an enchanted princess and fearfully worshipped from afar. Initiation, on the other hand, requires direct participation and demands each of us to smash the casket and press mad lips to mystery, wooing her as a lover who will offer up her treasures in a succession of sweet surrenders. This she will do, but only in exact ratio to our evolving ability and worthiness to receive them. The formula of initiation is universal. It matters little what specific mystery is revealed in the graduated steps of any particular initiatory society. Properly experienced, a degree of illumination is achieved, even in the most innocuous rite. Scholars, stonemasons, soldiers, sailors, physicians, printers, blacksmiths, even thieves and hangmen have historically enjoyed the benefits and privileges of fraternal orders. Remnants of the rites of our prehistoric brethren can still be seen in tribal ceremonies of indigenous people all over the planet. Initiations, circumcisions, ordeals of the hunt, sexual mysteries, secret words and signs, elaborate temple openings and closings, reenactments of heroic themes, oaths and covenants, ritual deaths and resurrection. Enough naked claptrap to make even the most conservative Freemason blush with embarrassment as he readily identifies key elements of his own craft. What is of primary importance is that the master key to the initiatory method itself becomes a permanently installed fixture in the individual. Once we've learned the process of becoming something greater than we are, we can and eventually will apply that same alchemy to ourselves to achieve the supreme attainment. But what about the Egyptian initiation ceremonies? Do we know with any degree of accuracy what they were like? How many initiatory sects applied their art throughout the 4,000-year span of Egyptian history? Do they compete with each other? When did the craft reach its spiritual zenith? At what point did it start to degenerate into empty form? Are any of the initiatory societies of today truly the inheritors of the Egyptian magical current? I think the only honest answer is nobody really knows. There are plenty of writers who claim to have combed the astral records to eavesdrop on the moment when Plato, Pythagoras, Homer, or Jesus were raised to spiritual perfection within the Great Pyramid. Great modern occultists, including Eliphas Levi, Aleister Crowley, and Manly Hall, have thrilled us with imaginative and colorful tales of the ancient initiate's journey. But no archaeologist has yet unearthed the first edition of Duncan's complete and unabridged Egyptian initiator's manual and monitor, explained and interpreted by copious notes and numerous engravings. Or have they? Stuck between the legs of every well-dressed Egyptian mummy is a magical text written, so tradition would have us believe, by the god Thoth himself. It's a painfully detailed map of every aspect of the projected imagination of God. Memorized to perfection in life, it enabled the recently deceased to negotiate step by step the ordeals and confusion of post-mortem existence, and become absorbed, as it were, fully identified with the immortal deity. The text is known to us as the Book of the Dead, and while unquestionably the scriptural centerpiece of an elaborately complex religious institution, it is, in my opinion, the fundamental handbook of initiation. Now, the full text title of that is The Egyptian Book of the Dead, the Book of Going Forth by Day, being the papyrus of Ani, royal scribe of the divine offerings. Now, the texts that I'm going to be using in my quotes and footnotes are from the marvelous, relatively new edition, 1994 edition, that was produced and put together by and edited by our good friend James Wasserman. And that's from Chronicle Books, 1994. And if you have, say, the old Budge edition of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, I highly recommend that you get the Chronicle Book edition conceived by James Wasserman. There are those who will still argue that I am either overstating or understating the case, that if I were a serious scholar of the subject, I'd be aware of the complex evolution of the document, its arbitrary redundancies, omissions, and superfluous attachments. To such criticism, I humbly offer no resistance. In the 25 years since laziness induced me to put aside the Book of the Dead, I have not gone back to college to receive a degree in Egyptology. Nor have I taken it upon myself to learn hieroglyphics or become an amateur archaeologist. However, in that same quarter century, the gods have seen fit to allow me the privilege of ritually officiating at the degree initiations of a great many individuals. I stopped counting at 700. The dialogue and the blocking of the ceremonies long ago transcended memorization and has freed me to stand apart from myself and witness the proceedings from a magical vantage point. Within the sealed membrane of the tiled temple, time is suspended. I see in the darkness, and without any effort of my own, I'm repeatedly allowed to become both the initiator and the candidate. It is in this capacity that I offer my credentials to comment on this subject. The next little section is headed up by "Wanna be a member? Wanna be a member?" And that's in reference to an old 1931 cartoon by Max Fleischer called Bimbo's Initiation. If you haven't seen it, please just Google Bimbo's Initiation and you can watch it on YouTube. Betty Boop is in it too. Every person, every Mason and every initiator and initiate will certainly get a kick out of it. Bimbo's Initiation. Almost every facet of modern degree initiation has its complement in the Book of the Dead. Just as the deceased is progressively raised to complete identity with the glorified Osiris, so too the modern candidate is eventually raised to mastership of the rite. But even before the series of initiations begin, the candidate must undergo tests of his or her fitness to enter the rite. Are there any skeletons in the closet that, if uncovered, would bring embarrassment or shame upon the craft? Are the reasons for joining honorable? Such soul-searching must occur before the candidate even petitions the lodge in writing, formally requesting to be considered for membership. Here's a quote from the Book of the Dead. "O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart, which I had from my mother, O my heart of my different ages, do not stand up as a witness against me. Do not be opposed to me in the tribunal. Do not be hostile to me in the presence of the keeper of the balance." The candidate must have a sponsor from within the lodge who vouches for the candidate and who will serve as his or her advocate before the membership. The Book of Thoth, the Book of the Dead says, "Thus says Thoth, judge of truth, to the great Ennead, which is in the presence of Osiris. Hear this word of very truth. I have judged the heart of the deceased, and his soul stands as witness for him. His deeds are righteous in the great balance, and no sin has been found in him." And the membership who hopefully accepts the recommendation of the sponsor and accepts his petition. The Book of the Dead would say, "Thus says the great Ennead to Thoth, who is in Hermopolis. This utterance of yours is true. The vindicated Osiris Ani is straightforward. He has no sin. There are no accusations against him before us. Amit shall not be permitted to have power over him. Let there be given to him offerings which are issued in the presence of Osiris, and may a grant of land be established in the field of offerings, as for the followers of Horus." The next section says, "You can't get there from here." The rite itself represents the universe in its totality, and the master or hierophant symbolizes the supreme being. Each degree is a subdivision of the absolute, and it is impossible to comprehend the greater reality of each ascending world unless one has an illuminated mastery of the preceding degree. In temple workings, this reality is strictly acknowledged. In Blue Lodge Masonry, all routine business is conducted in a third-degree temple. In order to open a lodge in the third degree, it is necessary to first formally open in the first, then the second degree. If lower-degree business, such as the passing of a second-degree candidate, is scheduled, the lodge then must be formally lowered to the appropriate degree. In magical orders, the grades correspond directly to levels of human consciousness and are based upon the recognizable schematic scaffolding such as the Tree of Life or the 30 Enochian Aethers. It is not a prerequisite in most orders for the candidate to actually achieve these progressively exalted states of consciousness. An order possessed of such omniscience to accurately judge such matters is most likely not found in the phone book. In most instances, including very serious magical orders, the degrees serve merely as a roadmap for the candidate's inevitable personal odyssey. It's not uncommon for the truths communicated to the candidate in lower degrees to be amended or even contradicted in higher degrees. Be nice to your mother may be a worthy sentiment for a neophyte, but a master of the temple is well advised to, quote, "tear thy mother from thy heart." Next section says, "Halt! Who goes there?" Perhaps the most outstanding feature of the Book of the Dead is that the deceased is required on multiple occasions to pass through a series of gates or pylons. At each point, the traveler is barred from entry by a guardian who demands the secret keys unique to that particular section. In chapter 17 of the Book of the Dead, it outlines a journey through 7 gates. At each gate, the deceased is required to correctly state the name of the gatekeeper, the name of the guardian of the gate, and the name of the announcer who will proclaim success or failure to pass. If successful, the deceased has to declare the powers and nature of the station and the cosmic role he or she will be required to perform there. From the Book of the Dead, the example is the 4th gate. The 4th gate, the name of its gatekeeper is one whose face repels, one of multitudinous voices. The name of its guardian is Alert One. The name of the announcer is one who repels the crocodile. Words spoken by the Osiris Ani, the vindicated when arriving at the gate, quote, I am the bull, the son of the kite of Osiris. Behold, you witnesses, for his father, the possessor of his grace. I have cut off harm from him. I have brought life for him at his nose for eternity. I am the son of Osiris. Make a path for me so that I might pass by in the god's domain. Unquote. Evolution is the result of a threefold process of resistance, struggle, and mutation. The fundamental secret of initiation is revealed by the fact that the candidate is repeatedly barred, tested, and passed. The triad of primary initiating officers also reflects this process. In many rites, the candidate is halted at various stations of the temple and interrogated or confronted with an ordeal. Then, with the aid of a ritual guide or advocate, the candidate overcomes the ordeal and is given permission by the supreme authority to continue. Initiates of the Golden Dawn tradition will recognize in the above offices, the offices of Hegemon, Hieros, and Hierophant. The threefold action is also involved in the threshold of the modern temple, where in many instances members are stopped, usually by an armed guard, and required to deliver the secret signs, grips, and words that will prove they are bona fide members of the degree currently being worked. If a member arrives late, he or she must prove to the guardian at the outside of the temple door, who must inform the guardian on the inside of the temple, who in turn vouches for the latecomer and asks permission from the master or hierophant that they be admitted. There is no question that the cosmic significance of lodge behavior is lost on the objective mind of most candidates and members. Yet, I would wager that even the most lukewarm Oddfellow has had at least one fitful night's sleep in which his credentials, his apron, or his memory of signs and grips has been challenged in a temple nightmare. Once imprinted upon the subconscious mind, the formula of initiation is difficult, if not impossible, to remove. If allowed to imprint the deepest stratum of the psyche, it may even provide to the diligent aspirant the key to overcoming death. And that's where we'll pick it up tomorrow. We'll finish off the chapter. The next section is headed up. Being dead is just like being alive, except when you close your eyes, it's light. So, happy Monday, everybody. Have a good week before you. I hope you're continuing to be cautious, be careful, and doing everything you can to stay safe and healthy. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.